Alright guys, today we're looking at Unit 10, Lesson 3, and we're going to be finding the inverses and the domain and range of the inverses of our square root functions. So we're going to start with just the easiest one. We're going to say let f of x be the square root of x, so just our parent function. And first thing I'm going to figure out is what's the domain and the range of this. And we already talked about the domain and the range. They are the same thing. I get 0 to infinity and 0 to infinity. And so I want to first find the inverse. So the inverse, our notation that we use for that inverse is f to the negative 1 x. And we just say f inverse. That's how we pronounce that. And we talked last semester about how to find the inverse of a function. No matter what the function is, we literally switch our x and y value. And so if we say this is y equals the square root of x, then we're going to switch, do a little switcheroo, and we're literally going to put x in y's place and y in x's place. So I get x equals the square root of y. And now I want to solve for y again. So solve for y. And so in, I think, Unit 10, Lesson 1, you were solving the square root equation. So how do I get rid of the square root? I'm going to square both sides. So square the left side, square the right side. On the left, I end up with just x squared. And on the right, the square root and the squared cancel themselves out. So I get y. And so I have y equals x squared. I solve for y. And so we'll say that f inverse of x is equal to x squared once I get all solved for y. And this one, we'll do another example in a second, but our domain and our range now are switched. The domain of my original equation is now the range of the inverse, and they're the same, so we aren't really going to see it on this example, but I am going to switch the two. So the domain of my original is now my range, so 0 to infinity, and the range of the original is now my domain, so 0 to infinity. So let's do another, maybe more interesting example. But this is the gist of how it all works. So let's say that I have f of x equals, let's do 3 square roots of x minus 2. And so same exact thing. I want to find the inverse, its domain, and its range. So the very first thing I'm going to do is find the domain and the range of the original function, because I'll need that in the end to find the domain and range of the inverse. So the domain and range of this, so remember this number out front, this is for the vertical stretch or compression, so it does not affect my domain or range at all. I don't have anything under the square root with x, so my domain is still just the same. I get 0 to infinity. And my range, I have this vertical transformation right here. It says minus 2, so that means down 2. So my range, instead of starting at 0, it starts at negative 2 to infinity. Alright, so I have the domain. So I can pretty much tell you what the domain and range of my inverse will be. So let's go ahead and find the inverse. So we are looking for f to the negative 1, which is f inverse. And the way we're going to do that, start off with y equals 3 square roots of x minus 2. And we're going to switch our x and y values. So I get x equals 3 square roots of y minus 2. And I need to get y all by itself. So I switched. And then I'm going to solve for y. So I want to get y all by itself. Which means I have to get the square root all by itself first, just like when we were solving them. So first thing, I'm going to add 2 to both sides. So I get x plus 2 equals 3 square roots of y. And then I'm going to divide both sides by 3. So divide by 3, divided by 3. These 3's cancel out. I get x plus 2 over 3 equals the Now I have the square root all by itself, so I can square both sides. So I'm going to square this whole thing over here. Squared. And I'll square the whole thing on the right. Squaring this whole thing on the left, I can leave it just like that. Don't mess with it. Just leave it just like that. So I will have, I'm going to write it right over here. So I have x plus 2 over 3 squared equals, remember the square root and the square cancel out, and so I end up with just y. Once I've solved for y, this is my inverse, and so I know then that f inverse of x equals x plus 2 over 3, and don't forget your parentheses, that whole thing squared. So there is my inverse, here's my inverse. And now I want to find the domain and the range. And so the domain and the range of the inverse is just the opposite of what the domain and the range are for my original function. So let's write my domain. The domain is going to be the range of my original function. I'm just going to switch them. So my domain is -2 to infinity, and my range is the domain of the original, so 0 to infinity. And that's it. There's my inverse, and its domain and its range. Works that way every single time. Okay, so there's Unit 10, Lesson 3. As always, if you have any questions, please, please, please email me. All right? Y'all have a great day, and I will talk to you soon.